The space station never truly slept. Its long metal halls carried the sound of footsteps, engines, and soft announcements even in the quietest hours. Yet some parts of the station felt lonely when the crowds had gone. Ren walked quickly down the corridor, his boots echoing on the steel floor. He had just finished his shift and wanted nothing more than to return to his small room on the upper deck. The elevator stood at the end of the corridor, tall and silent, waiting to carry travelers between the many layers of the station. The door slid open with a faint hiss when Ren pressed the button. He stepped inside, leaning back against the cool wall. His eyes felt heavy, and his mind drifted toward rest. Just as the doors began to close, a voice called out. "Wait." Ren reacted at once. He pressed the panel, and the doors stopped, opening again. A slim figure hurried inside. She was not human. Her skin was faintly silver, catching the dim light, and her large dark eyes glanced quickly at Ren before looking away. She carried a small case close to her chest, as though she feared it might be taken. "Thanks," she whispered, her voice soft but steady. Ren nodded politely. "No problem." The doors closed again, and the elevator hummed as it started upward. The silence grew heavy between them. Ren studied the floor display as the numbers changed slowly. The alien girl Myra, as he would later learn, kept her head low. She seemed nervous, shifting her grip on the case from one hand to the other. Without warning, the elevator jolted. Lights flickered. The hum of movement stopped. Both Ren and the girl looked up at the same time. The display froze on a number halfway between decks. "What?" Ren muttered. He pressed the buttons on the panel. Nothing responded. He tried again. Still nothing. The girl's breath caught. She stepped back against the wall, her eyes darting around the small cabin. "It stopped," she whispered. Ren kept calm. Elevators failed sometimes, he had seen it before. "It's just a malfunction," he said, though he could not ignore the strange unease crawling into his chest. He tried the emergency call, but the small screen only blinked once before going dark. The entire system seemed dead. For a moment, silence filled the space. The only sound was the faint hum of the station's machinery, far away through the walls. The girl looked at Ren with wide eyes. "Do you think someone will come?" "Of course," Ren said. "They always do. Maintenance crew will fix it." He spoke with more confidence than he felt. Minutes passed. Ren tried tapping the control panel again, even pulling open a small section with his hands, but the wires inside looked strange, written in alien script he did not understand. He shook his head. "Not much I can do." "Wrong language." The girl hugged her case tighter. She didn't answer. Ren finally asked, "You live on this deck?" Her lips pressed together, as though she didn't want to speak. After a pause she said, "No, I was just passing through." Her voice carried a weight he couldn't miss. Something about the way she avoided his eyes made Ren wonder if she was hiding more than simple nerves. The silence stretched again. Ren leaned back against the wall, crossing his arms. He had been trained as a soldier, and years of service had sharpened his senses. Something about this elevator stop felt wrong. Malfunctions happened, yes, but the timing, the way the systems had gone completely dead, it all seemed unusual. The girl shifted her feet, clearly uncomfortable. She kept glancing toward the ceiling as though she expected something above them. Ren noticed. "You seem worried," he said. She blinked and shook her head quickly. "No, it's nothing." But Ren knew better. Outside, faint echoes traveled down the long elevator shaft. They were soft at first, like distant taps or a low hum. Then they grew clearer, metal scraping against metal, footsteps perhaps, moving somewhere above. The girl stiffened at the sound. Her case trembled in her hands. Ren turned his head, listening carefully. The noise faded, but the memory of it remained. The station was never truly silent. Yet inside this small box, hanging between decks, with a stranger who looked more afraid of being discovered than of being trapped, Ren began to feel that the night was only beginning. He studied her one more time. She avoided his gaze, clutching the case as though her life depended on it. The elevator might have been broken, but Ren sensed there was more trapped inside with him than just himself and an alien girl. There were secrets here, secrets that might not belong to him, but now he was part of them. And outside, in the dark shaft, someone else might already be searching. The air inside the elevator grew heavier as the minutes passed. The small cabin felt smaller than before, and Ren could hear Myra's shallow breaths. She tried to stay calm, but her trembling hands gave her away. Ren crouched near the panel again, checking the wires one more time. He wasn't an engineer, but sometimes he could manage small fixes. This time, though, nothing responded. The strange alien coating on the circuits was unfamiliar to him. He sighed and leaned back. No use. The system's locked. We'll have to wait until someone notices. Myra didn't reply. She kept her case close, her eyes fixed on the floor. Ren studied her quietly. She didn't look like someone caught in a simple inconvenience. She looked like someone caught in danger. You're afraid, Ren said at last. His voice was calm, not accusing. Her head snapped up. No, she said quickly. I'm fine. But her voice wavered. Ren didn't press further. He had learned during his service that some people revealed truth faster if you gave them space. The silence returned. The station outside continued its deep, steady hum. Yet Ren could not shake the faint noises he had heard above them earlier, the scraping sound, like boots or tools against metal. Strange, he muttered. Myra glanced at him. What? Usually, when an elevator stops, someone calls in right away. A crew comes within minutes. But it's been longer. Too long. He tapped the dark screen. And the emergency line is dead. That doesn't happen often. Myra's lips pressed together. She seemed to consider her words before speaking. Maybe, it's not an accident. Ren straightened at her tone. What do you mean? She hesitated. Her grip on the case tightened until her knuckles turned pale silver. Then she whispered, sometimes, people don't want the lift to move. Ren studied her closely now. There was no fear of the elevator in her eyes. The fear was of something else, something waiting beyond the doors. He tilted his head. That case you're holding, is it the reason? Her body stiffened. She looked away, silent. That was answer enough. Ren didn't push her. Instead, he leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. Whatever it is, it must be important. She gave him a sharp look, as if weighing his trust. After a long pause, she said softly, if they find it, they'll take it away. And they'll punish anyone near it? Ren felt his chest tighten. So his guess was right, this was bigger than a broken machine. Still, he spoke with calm steadiness. So you'd rather be stuck here than found out there? Myra nodded slowly. The humming noise returned, faint but steady, somewhere above the elevator shaft. Ren tilted his head, listening. It was clearer now. Tools clinking, perhaps. Or rope sliding. Someone was definitely moving above them. Myra's hands shook. They're searching. Ren frowned. Who? She hesitated again. Then her voice lowered to a whisper. Guards. The word carried weight. Not simple station workers. Not helpful rescuers. Guards. Ren exhaled slowly. Then you were right. This isn't an accident. For a moment, they simply stood there, listening. The sound above shifted, then grew distant again. Maybe the searchers were checking another level. Maybe they would return. Myra finally spoke, her voice small but steady. You don't have to stay quiet. You could call for them. Tell them I'm here. Tell them I carry this. She lifted the case slightly. They'll thank you. You'll be safe. Ren looked at her. He saw the fear in her eyes, the way she braced for betrayal. But he only shook his head. If I wanted to do that, I would have already called out. She blinked, surprised. Ren added, humans don't hand people over so easily. At least, not me. For the first time, Myra's expression softened. The lines of fear eased just a little. She lowered her head and whispered, you don't even know me. True, Ren said. But I can tell you're not a threat. You're just trying to protect something. Her eyes lifted again, dark and shining. She studied him with caution, as though she couldn't believe his words. Slowly, her shoulders loosened, and she released a shaky breath. The tension in the elevator shifted. The silence no longer felt like an enemy but like a shield. Two strangers, trapped together, carrying more than just themselves. Still, the danger outside was real. The faint echoes returned again, this time closer, sharper. A voice carried down the shaft too far to make out words, but clearly calling to someone. Myra flinched. Ren instinctively moved in front of her, as if to block her from sight, even though the doors remained sealed. We need a plan, he said quietly. Myra looked at him, surprised again. A plan? Yes. If they open this lift, they'll see us. And if they see you with that case, things will end badly. So we need to make sure they don't. She held his gaze for a long moment, then finally gave a small nod. Outside, the noises grew louder. Metal clanged. Shadows shifted across the tiny cracks near the door. The elevator might have been stuck, but the night was moving fast. Ren and Myra knew they had little time before secrets inside the elevator were forced into the open. And for now, those secrets were theirs alone. The elevator hung silent, but outside the shaft, faint echoes still came and went. Myra's eyes stayed fixed on the door as though expecting it to burst open at any moment. Ren leaned against the wall, calm but alert, his mind working quickly. He knew one thing for certain, the girl was not ordinary, and neither was the case she carried. Finally, Myra broke the silence. You should not help me, she whispered. It will bring you trouble. Ren shrugged lightly. I've seen trouble before. I'll live. She looked at him, unsure whether to believe that confidence. The faint light inside the cabin reflected off her silver skin, giving her an almost fragile look. After a pause, she sat down on the floor, hugging the case close to her chest. Ren lowered himself across from her, resting his arms on his knees. Tell me what's inside. Maybe I can understand better. She shook her head quickly. If you know, you'll be in danger too. Ren gave a small smile. Myra, I think I'm already in danger. Trapped in a dead elevator, with noises outside, and a girl hugging a case like it holds the universe. You might as well tell me. Her eyes widened slightly. He had said her name without her telling him. How do you know? Ren lifted a shoulder. Your kind wears identity bands. Yours glowed when you entered. I read the letters. She glanced down at the faint band on her wrist, surprised he had noticed. For a moment, she looked almost embarrassed. Slowly, she placed the case on the floor between them. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the small latch. The lid opened with a soft click. Inside lay a crystal device, glowing faintly with a pale blue light. Its shape was simple, but Ren felt an odd pull just looking at it, as if it carried a weight far larger than its size. This, Myra whispered, is not a weapon. It is a key. Ren tilted his head. A key? For what? She hesitated, then continued. My people's past. Our true records were locked away long ago. The rulers replaced them with lies. They erased names, erased history, erased voices. This device can unlock the hidden archives. It can show the truth. Rin's eyes narrowed. Truth that someone doesn't want revealed. Myra nodded. That is why the guards are searching. They do not guard people. They guard secrets. Her words sank heavy in the small cabin. Rin had heard rumors during his years of service, rumors of missing histories, of councils hiding things from common folk. But he had never seen proof. Until now. He looked back at Myra. And you? Why do you carry it? Her voice softened. Because I found it? By chance. And once I touched it, I knew what it was. I could not give it back. If I did, it would disappear again, maybe forever. Rin studied the glow of the crystal. In that moment, he understood her fear. She was not only carrying an object, she was carrying the hope of her people. The silence stretched again, filled only by the faint humming of the device. Finally, Rin said, "You were right. If they find this, they'll take it. And they won't let either of us leave this elevator." Myra closed the case quickly, as though hiding the glow might make the danger less real. "I should never have come here," she murmured. But Rin shook his head. "No. Maybe you came to the right place." She frowned. "How could this be right?" "Because," Rin said calmly, "sometimes the smallest places hold the biggest turns. Right now, the future of your people is sitting in an elevator with one human soldier. Maybe that's not chance." Her eyes softened at his words. For the first time, a small spark of trust lit her expression. But before she could reply, the elevator shuddered again. A loud clang echoed through the shaft. Someone was working on the doors. Myra gasped and held the case tight against her chest again. Rin moved quickly. He opened the panel he had tampered with earlier. It was small, but deep enough to hide something. "Give it here," he said. She hesitated. "What if you take it?" He met her gaze steadily. "If I wanted to, I would have already done it. Trust me." Her hands trembled, but finally she passed him the case. Rin slid it into the panel and closed it firmly. The glow disappeared. Seconds later, the doors groaned and opened slightly. A harsh light spilled inside. A guard's helmet appeared in the gap. "Elevator malfunction," Rin said quickly, stepping forward to block Myra from view. He made his voice frustrated, like any tired worker. "We been stuck forever. Took you long enough." The guard peered inside. His eyes moved over Rin, then to Myra, who kept her head down. "Stay where you are," the guard ordered. He spoke into his comm device, his voice echoing through the shaft. "Two inside." No sign of item. Rin's heart thumped. But his face stayed calm. The guard studied them both again. Then, without another word, the door slammed shut. The sound of metal faded as they climbed away, leaving the two of them in silence again. Myra's shoulders shook with relief. She looked at Rin with wide eyes. Why did you protect me?" Rin gave a simple answer. "Because sometimes, truth needs someone to stand in front of it." The elevator was quiet again, but Myra's heartbeat still raced in her chest. She leaned against the wall, pressing a hand over her case hidden in the panel. Her wide eyes studied Rin, as though trying to understand him. "You could have given me away," she whispered. Rin shrugged lightly. "I already told you, I don't hand people over. Especially not when the choice is between guards with secrets and someone who only wants truth." Myra shook her head slowly. "Humans are strange. I thought you only cared for your own." Rin chuckled. "Maybe most do. But sometimes, one human is enough to make a different choice." Her lips curved in the faintest smile before worry pulled her face down again. She stepped closer to the panel, as if making sure the case was still safe inside. "They'll be back," she said softly. "They didn't stop searching. They will return." Ren nodded. He knew she was right. The guards had not given up. They had only checked quickly and moved on. They would come again, maybe with better tools, maybe with orders to open the lift completely. "Then we can't stay here," Ren said firmly. Myra looked around the cabin. "But we're stuck." "Not completely," Ren replied. He pointed to the ceiling hatch. It was small, but large enough for someone to pass through with effort. "We can climb the shaft." Myra's eyes widened. "That's dangerous." Ren gave a small grin. "So is waiting here." He reached up and tried the hatch. It resisted at first, then gave way with a creak. A faint draft of air slipped in, cool and sharp. Ren looked back at her. "We'll need to move carefully." "But it's our best chance." Myra hesitated, then nodded. "I'll follow." Before leaving, Ren opened the panel and retrieved the case. He handed it back to her. "Keep it close. Don't drop it." Her hands wrapped tightly around it. "I won't." Ren crouched and offered his hands. "Step up." She blinked at the gesture, then carefully placed her foot in his palm. With a steady lift, he helped her reach the hatch. Myra pulled herself through with surprising grace. Once she was safe, Ren followed, climbing with practiced ease. They entered the narrow shaft above the cabin. Shadows stretched up and down, broken only by dim lights along the walls. The smell of metal and oil filled the air. Myra looked around nervously. "Where do we go?" "Up," Ren said simply. "Higher decks have more people, more ways out." Together they began to climb the ladder bolted to the wall. The echo of their movements sounded loud in the stillness, each step a reminder that the shaft carried noise easily. Halfway up, Ren paused and listened. Below, faint clanging echoed again. Guards were back at the elevator. Myra clutched the case tightly, fear shining in her dark eyes. "They'll find the cabin empty." "Good," Ren whispered. "That means they'll waste time searching there while we move." They kept climbing, faster now. Ren's strong hands moved smoothly along the ladder, while Myra struggled a little but refused to stop. Her determination impressed him. After several minutes, they reached another hatch leading to a service deck. Ren pushed against it, but it wouldn't budge. He frowned and tried again, harder this time. The metal groaned but stayed shut. Myra placed her hand against the lock. From her sleeve, she pulled a small tool that glowed faintly. She pressed it into the seam, and with a soft click, the hatch opened. Ren raised an eyebrow. "Convenient." She gave a tiny smile. "Some secrets are useful." They crawled through into a dark maintenance corridor. The walls were lined with pipes and cables, the air warmer here. Ren closed the hatch behind them and listened. The echoes of guards below were distant now. Myra finally let out a shaky breath. "We escaped, for now." Ren nodded. "But they'll keep looking. They'll know you didn't vanish. So we need to stay ahead." Myra lowered her voice. "Where can we go?" "The station is full of their patrols." Ren thought for a moment. "There are old storage rooms in the upper decks. Not used much. We can hide there until the search moves somewhere else. Then we figure out the next step." She studied him carefully. "You act like this is your mission." "Why?" Ren's expression was steady. "Because once I saw what you carry, it became mine too. Truth doesn't belong to one person. If you're right about this device, then the whole station should know. Maybe the whole galaxy." Myra's eyes softened again, and for the first time since entering the elevator, her shoulders relaxed. "I never thought a human would say that." Ren smiled faintly. "Humans like surprises." They moved quietly along the corridor, their footsteps muffled by the hum of the pipes. Ahead, a faint light marked the path to another stairwell. But Rin's instincts stayed sharp. He knew this escape was only the beginning. Somewhere behind them, guards were still searching. And sooner or later, the secrets Myra carried would draw more attention than they could avoid. For now, though, they had each other, a hidden truth, and a narrow path forward. And that was enough to keep moving. The maintenance corridor stretched long and narrow, filled with the low hum of pipes and cables. Rin walked ahead, his steps steady but quiet, while Myra followed close behind, holding the case tightly to her chest. Every sound around them, every hiss of steam, every echo made her flinch. "They're searching everywhere," she whispered. Rin glanced back, his expression calm. "That means they don't know where we went. That's good for us." Myra lowered her eyes, still uneasy. For now. They reached a junction where the corridor split into two. Rin paused, listening carefully. From the left passage came faint echoes of movement, boots against metal, voices muffled in the distance. From the right, silence. He gestured. "This way." They took the right path, moving deeper into the dimly lit section of the station. The air grew warmer, carrying the faint smell of oil. Pipes rattled above them, and the shadows stretched long. Myra finally asked, "Why do you trust me so easily? You don't know my people, you don't know me." Rin kept walking, his voice steady. "I don't need to know everything. I see enough. You're not trying to hurt anyone, you're trying to protect something important. That's enough for me." Her dark eyes softened, though worry still lingered in them. "You could lose everything if they catch us." "Maybe," Rin said with a faint smile. "But sometimes, doing nothing costs more." Before Myra could reply, Rin stopped suddenly. He raised a hand, signaling her to stay quiet. From ahead came the sound of metal scraping, followed by faint voices. Guards were close. Rin looked around quickly. To their left was a narrow service hatch, half hidden by pipes. He motioned Myra toward it. She hesitated, glancing at the tight space. "It's too small." "You'll fit," Rin whispered. "Go." With no choice, Myra squeezed into the hatch, clutching the case. Rin followed, pulling the panel shut behind them. Inside was a crawl space, barely wide enough for them to move side by side. The voices grew louder outside. "Check every corridor." She couldn't have gone far. Myra's breath trembled in the darkness. Rin placed a hand lightly on her shoulder, steadying her. "Stay calm," he whispered. The guard's footsteps echoed past the hatch. For a long moment, Rin and Myra stayed still, listening as the sounds faded down the corridor. Finally, Myra whispered, "They're everywhere. We can't run forever." Rin gave a small nod. "We don't need to run forever. Just long enough." They crawled through the service space until it opened into another chamber. This one was old and dusty, filled with unused crates stacked against the walls. A faint light flickered from a cracked panel above. "This will do," Rin said. Myra set the case down carefully. Her hands trembled as she opened it again, the soft blue glow filling the room. "This device, it doesn't just hold truth. It connects to memory archives hidden deep in the station system. If I can reach a terminal, I can unlock them." Rin raised an eyebrow. "So that's why the guards want it so badly. If people saw those records they would know everything," Myra finished. "They would see how the council erased history, how they changed stories to make themselves look like saviors instead of oppressors." Rin studied the glow for a moment, then looked at her. "So the question is, do you still want to take that risk?" Myra's voice was quiet but firm. "Yes. Even if it costs me." Rin nodded slowly. "Then it's simple. We find a way to a terminal. And we make sure you get enough time to use it." Her eyes widened slightly. "You'd help me do that?" I already am, Rin replied. Might as well finish what we started. Before Myra could answer, a loud clang echoed outside. The door to the storage chamber shook. Someone was trying to force it open. Myra gasped and reached for the case. Rin placed a finger to his lips. Quiet. The banging grew louder, followed by the sharp hiss of a cutting tool. Sparks slipped through the cracks. The guards had found them. Rin scanned the room quickly. His eyes landed on a narrow vent above the crates. Up there, he whispered. Myra hesitated. It's too high. Rin crouched and offered his hands again. Step. With his help, she climbed onto the crates and reached the vent. Rin gave her a push, and she managed to crawl inside, pulling the case with her. The door shook harder now, metal glowing red at the edges. Rin climbed after her, squeezing into the vent just as the storage room door burst open behind them. Voices shouted, boots pounded the floor, but by then, Rin and Myra were already moving through the narrow passage, hidden in the shadows above. The chase was not over. But they had bought themselves more time. And sometimes, time was all they needed. The vent stretched on like a narrow tunnel, dark and dusty. Rin moved first, his hands and knees scraping against the metal as he pulled himself forward. Behind him, Myra followed, the case clutched tightly against her chest. Every sound they made echoed faintly, but it was still better than being out in the open. They'll search every chamber, Myra whispered, her voice trembling. If they find the vent system they won't, Rin cut in firmly. There are too many passages. We'll stay ahead of them. His steady tone gave her some comfort, though her heart still pounded. The glow from the case lit the vent faintly, casting long shadows on the walls. After several minutes, the vent opened into another chamber. Rin pushed the panel aside carefully and peered down. Below was a dimly lit control room, filled with dusty consoles and broken monitors. It looked unused, forgotten. He dropped down silently, then helped Myra down. She brushed the dust from her clothes, her eyes scanning the room. This could work, she said softly. Rin examined the consoles. Most were cracked or dark, but one faint light still blinked on a side terminal. We might get something from that. Myra quickly knelt by the terminal, setting the case beside her. She connected a small cable from the case into the machine. The screen flickered, static dancing across it before faint lines of code appeared. Her hands moved quickly, typing commands in her own language. The glow from the case grew brighter, filling the room with soft blue light. Rin kept watch at the door, listening for footsteps. The silence pressed heavy around them, broken only by Myra's quick keystrokes. Finally, she whispered, "It's working. The archives are opening." Rin glanced back. "How long?" "A few minutes. Maybe more." He nodded. "Then I'll make sure you have it." Her eyes met his for a brief moment. She could see the calm determination in him, the way he stood ready without hesitation. For someone who didn't know her a day ago, he was risking everything. The screen filled with data, lines of hidden records flashing before Myra's eyes. She read quickly, her face tightening. "It's worse than I thought," she whispered. "They erased whole events. Whole cities that were destroyed rewritten as victories. Families that vanished, leaders that resisted turned into traitors in the official story." Rin's jaw clenched. "All to keep their control." Myra nodded, her voice low. "If this reaches the people, they'll know the truth. They'll see what was taken from them." But before she could continue, a sudden alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed across the walls. "They found us," Rin said sharply. Myra's hands shook, but she didn't stop. "Just a little longer, please." The sound of boots echoed outside, growing louder. Rin pressed his back to the door, gripping a heavy metal rod he had picked up from the floor. His eyes narrowed, listening. The console beeped, and Myra gasped. It's ready. The files are unlocked. Can you send them? Rin asked quickly. Yes, but she hesitated. I need a stronger signal. This room is too deep underground. The message won't reach far. Rin thought fast. Then we need to get higher. Somewhere closer to the main towers. Myra unplugged the case, hugging it close again. Her hands trembled, but her eyes shone with resolve. Then we run. The door suddenly shook, hard, as someone outside tried to force it open. Rin motioned her toward the vent again. Go. Now. She climbed quickly, pulling herself up with effort. Rin gave her a push, then followed just as the door burst open below. Shouts filled the room, but by the time the guards entered, Rin and Myra were already crawling deeper through the vent system. The chase grew more desperate. The vent rattled under their weight, echoing with every movement. Voices followed below, and flashlights cut through the cracks, but they kept moving, faster and faster. Finally, the vent opened into a wide shaft where cables hung like ropes. A ladder stretched upward into darkness. Rin went first, climbing quickly. Come on, he called softly. Myra followed, gripping the cables tightly with one hand while holding the case with the other. Her arms ached, but she didn't stop. The sound of guards echoed faintly below, shouting orders. The climb felt endless, but at last, they reached a higher level. Rin pushed open another panel, pulling Myra through. They emerged into a quiet maintenance deck, much closer to the main tower. From here, faint city lights could be seen through small windows. Myra collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Rin crouched beside her, steadying her with a hand. You did well, he said simply. She shook her head, exhausted but determined. We're not finished yet. We need a main terminal. Just one, connected to the broadcast network. Then, everyone will know. Rin looked out the window at the distant towers glowing in the night. His eyes hardened with resolve. Then that's where we go next. And though the alarm still rang, though the search tightened around them, neither of them turned back. For the first time, Myra felt hope. The main tower loomed ahead, tall and bright against the dim glow of the station. Rin and Myra crouched behind a metal beam on the maintenance deck, catching their breath. The alarm still blared far below, but the higher they climbed, the more distant the guards became. Myra held the case tightly. If we reach the broadcast terminal, she whispered, we can finally share the truth. But one wrong step, and they'll stop us. Rin nodded. Then we don't make mistakes. We move carefully, and we move fast. They slipped along the maintenance corridors, using shadows to hide from the occasional patrolling guard. Every metallic echo of their footsteps made Myra flinch, but Rin's calm presence kept her steady. At last, they arrived at a wide service hatch leading into the tower's upper floors. The hatch had a heavy lock, but Myra set the case down and pulled out the small glowing tool she had used before. Within seconds, the panel clicked open. Rin gave her a nod. Good work. Let's go. They climbed through and emerged into a narrow corridor. The air smelled faintly of ozone and electricity. Ahead, red warning lights blinked on panels, but the main terminal's glow could already be seen through a small glass window. That's it, Myra breathed, her eyes wide. That's the terminal. Rin studied the corridor carefully. No guards were in sight, but the alarms made it clear they were being tracked. He gestured for Myra to move first. Step lightly. Follow my lead. She moved slowly, every movement precise. Rin followed, his eyes scanning every corner. A soft metallic clank echoed in the distance, but they pressed on. Finally, they reached the room. Myra knelt at the terminal and connected the device. The screen flickered to life. Lines of hidden records streamed across it, histories erased, events rewritten, truths hidden for decades. Rin leaned over her shoulder, studying the data. This could change everything, he whispered. Myra nodded. If I broadcast this, everyone on the station will see the real history. Not the lies the council wants them to believe. She typed rapidly, setting the device to transmit. The glow from the case filled the small room, bright and steady. Rin kept watch at the door, listening for any sound of pursuit. Then, a faint tapping echoed outside. A guard. Rin's eyes narrowed. They found us again. Myra didn't stop typing. Her fingers moved faster. Almost there, the tapping grew louder. Footsteps approached. Rin scanned the room, looking for a place to hide. There was nowhere. The door handle rattled. Rin stepped in front of Myra, shielding her from view. Hurry, he urged. She pressed the final command. A soft chime rang from the terminal. The device transmitted the records to the station's main network. Lines of truth appeared on screens across every deck. Faces of people long erased from history flickered onto monitors. The guards burst into the room just as the transmission completed. Rin stood firm, his stance ready but calm. Myra's eyes met his. We did it, she whispered. Rin nodded. Yes. They'll come for the terminal, but the broadcast is already out. Too late to stop it now. The guards shouted orders, but the screens continued to flash, revealing truths that could not be erased. Rin gently guided Myra toward the back exit. Come on. We still need to move. They slipped out through a secondary corridor. The alarms echoed behind them, but the station was alive with attention now. Screens in control rooms, in public areas, even in private quarters displayed the hidden history. People stopped, stared, and read. Whispers spread quickly, and the council's control began to falter. Myra finally allowed herself a small smile. The truth, it's free now. Rin glanced at her. And you did it? Your people's story won't be hidden anymore. She looked at him, gratitude shining in her dark eyes. I couldn't have done it without you. He shrugged lightly. Humans are useful sometimes, he said with a small grin. They continued moving through the corridors, now calmer. The danger was not completely gone, but the mission was accomplished. The secret that had been trapped in the elevator, the case that had caused so much fear, now carried hope for many. For Myra, it meant justice for her people. For Rin, it was proof that even one human could make a difference, standing with truth when it mattered most. They paused at a window overlooking the station's central plaza. Lights flickered as screens displayed the stories they had released. People gathered, reading, pointing, and whispering. Change had begun. Myra set the case down beside her, finally relaxing. We did it, she said again, softly. Rin leaned against the wall, watching the crowd below. Yes. And sometimes, it starts with one elevator, one choice, and two people willing to protect a secret until the right moment. For a long moment, the two of them stood together, watching the first waves of truth spread across the station. The elevator had been their beginning, a small and tight space where fear and mystery met courage and trust. But now, the station, and maybe even the galaxy, would never forget what had been revealed. And for Rin and Myra, a bond was formed, a bond built on trust, bravery, and the courage to stand for what was right. The alarms continued, but they no longer felt like threats. They were reminders that change had started, and no one could stop it. For the first time, the night felt like freedom.